Breaking tonight, the demonization of Donald Trump. As liberal news outlets slam Mr. Trump's controversial immigration plan, it seems some voters think the media is getting it wrong. Good evening. Welcome to the Kelly File. I'm Shannon Bream in for Megyn Kelly. Trump was in New Hampshire last night for his first Q&A with voters, where he wasted no time doubling down on some of the more controversial elements of his plan. From birthright citizenship to the wall he's proposing to build along our southern border, his supporters seem to cheer at almost every word. But certain news outlets have a different take, very different take. Trump's plan would wreak havoc on U.S. society, the Washington Post declared in an editorial Monday. The next day, CNN published an op-ed suggesting Trump's plan was, quote, clueless. Today, the New York Times took things one step further, suggesting other Republicans are now following Trump's lead to the bottom and calling his plan, quote, despicable. But as we saw last night, some voters seem to have a very different opinion. Watch this.
They were saying, I was watching these characters, politicians that are running against me. You can't get Mexico to pay for the wall. Of course you can. They can't, because they never would even think of it. Do you know how much Mexico is making from the United States? That's peanuts, the wall. And then they say, you can't build a wall. It's too big. It doesn't work. Well, 3,000 years ago, right? The Great Wall of China was built. We'd like to have that wall. That wall, nobody gets through. That I can tell you. In Mexico, they were complaining it doesn't work. Now, they have these walls built. And they said, well, people go over these walls with a ladder. You know how tall the wall is? It's like this. And it's not a wall. It's a little fence. And people put up a ladder that they buy at Home Depot, and they go over the wall, jump, and that's the end. And then they say, I'm talking about a wall. See that ceiling up there? Higher.
Mark Thiessen, the former chief presidential speechwriter for President George W. Bush, joins us in just a moment. But first, let's go to pollster Frank Luntz, CEO of Luntz Global. Frank, great to see you tonight. Regardless of how the mainstream media feels about what Trump is saying, you've discovered some very interesting things about how people really feel.
Yes, and this was done in Nevada, one of the key states. And we talked to swing Republicans and Democrats, not your primary voters. And Donald Trump did incredibly well. And I want to point out three language keys to why Trump is doing so well. Number one, he talks about taking the country back. Number two, he talks about rule of law, which voters across the political spectrum care about. And number three, he challenges political correctness. Watch how high the lines go as he walks through with those key points his position on immigration. This is one of the highest tested segments that we have found in this election so far. Take a look.
I don't think I'm mean-spirited. We have to get back our country. Look, our country is going down. We have to get back our country. It's based on laws. These are illegal. Now, people like to say undocumented because that's politically correct. I don't say that. These people came in illegally. Some are excellent. They're fantastic, wonderful, but they have to go out. Now, they can come back in, but they have to come in legally. We can even expedite the process. I think that's fine. I like that. And then you have some really bad ones. The gangs. You got gangs roving, hurting people, killing people. You look at what happened to Kate in San Francisco. So we have to be able to get the bad. We got bad dudes out there, bad ones. And we'll get them out so fast. Let me tell you, if I'm president, we'll get them out of here so fast your head's going to spin.
And that's the issue. If he'd only not said that last sentence, if I'm president, we'll get them out so fast our heads are going to spin. That makes it about Donald Trump rather than fighting immigration. Other than that, that was perfect communication.
Yeah, I mean, you really saw people responding there. And of course, when you bring up issues like Kate Steinle and crimes being committed by illegals, there have been spotlight cases that have happened. He knows what he's tapping into there. But what of the bit of, you might say, hyperbole? I mean, things that maybe he'd like to get done as president, but it's not like on day one he can send home millions of people, and that's going to be done without great trouble. And probably, as most people estimate, it's impossible.
Well, the key message here is that when you focus on solving the problem, the voters are absolutely with you. But if you focus on your own participation in it, they want to know what you're going to do, not necessarily that you're going to be part of it. And I've got another segment for you. This is one of the top ads of this election cycle. Notice how sharply the lines go up when Trump talks about how the politicians are all about talk and not about action. Take a look.
I don't like what I see happening to America. The infrastructure of our country is a laughingstock all over the world. Our airports, our bridges, our roadways, it's falling apart. It's a terrible thing to see. Our politicians are all talk, no action. Millions of people are flowing across our southern border. We've got to build a real wall. With all of this, our country has tremendous potential. Let's make America great again.
The music sounded like Ronald Reagan. The reaction was like Reagan's, where he did well across the board. You never see those red lines, the Republicans, and the green line, the Democrats. You never see them go up in tandem. In this place, he has got the perfect message, and it's one of the reasons why he's doing so well.
Yeah, I wanted to ask you about that, a little bit more about that, because so much of what you've shown us with regard to his comments, it's interesting to see Democrats and Republicans going up into the 60s, the 70s, in agreement on a scale of 1 to 100. The parties tracking together, that is pretty rare, I would imagine, in most of your research.
It doesn't happen, and I have to tell you that it does explain. And I've seen the negative, and I've talked about the negative on shows like this. But you have to acknowledge what's happening right now. And it is the message and the messenger have come together, and it's transcending traditional partisanship. I want to emphasize that. Not only is Donald Trump doing well among Republicans, he's also doing well among independents. And that's very important in a state like South Carolina, where anyone can vote, and it's very important in New Hampshire, where independents can participate.
All right, Frank Luntz, always very interesting insights. Thank you so much for breaking them down for us tonight.
It's a pleasure. Thank you.
All right, joining me now, Mark Thiessen, a Fox News contributor and former chief presidential speechwriter for President George W. Bush. All right, Mark, he is getting a lot of accolades. He is getting cheering crowds, thousands of people showing up, tens of thousands. But on this issue of immigration, it's important for anybody who's looking him, love him, hate him, wherever you are. With any candidate, you have to look at their history and what they've said before. All of these candidates have taken heat over evolving or flip-flopping on issues. I mean, we hear what Donald Trump is saying now, but when Mitt Romney was talking about what people were equating to self-deportation, Trump was very critical of that. He said basically it was maniacal. It was a crazy idea. So how do you explain this evolution and the fact that voters are more than willing to embrace it, even though there has clearly been a change?
Well, what's changed since then is the lawlessness of the Obama administration. I mean, Trump is appealing to a segment of the voting bloc that is very, very frustrated with both parties in Washington and their handling of immigration. And it's not just a Republican frustration. I agree 100% with Frank. The Democrats, there's 80% support for deporting criminal aliens who've committed a felony. So this is a bipartisan frustration. But what's given rise to Trump? What's given rise to Trump is Obama's lawless executive action on executive amnesty, giving even people who support amnesty don't support it by executive order. Majority of Americans are opposed to that. The killing of Kate Steinle and the Obama administration's refusal to crack down on sanctuary cities that are giving them sanctuary, and then the revelation, quite frankly, that the Obama administration has been releasing upwards of 30,000 convicted felons into our streets every year, people who committed kidnappings and sexual assaults and even murder. And the Republican Party, quite frankly, has done nothing about it. So Americans there's a legitimate frustration. When Donald Trump says, I'm going to take those people and send them back so fast your head can spin, that appeals to a lot of people.
Yeah, you mentioned that there is so much frustration. It's aimed in so many directions. You've got it aimed at the White House. You've got it aimed at the GOP Congress. And they said, give us the House and the Senate. We're going to change things. And there's still this unfinished business, much of it on the issue of immigration. What do you think the Democrats are feeling about this? I mean, do you think that as the left just rails not only on Donald Trump, but on anybody who agrees with him, other contenders in the GOP 2016 field, is this a win for Democrats? Because they're going to say, and Hillary Clinton has done this repeatedly, videos and tweets, look how crazy the Republicans are. You know, they hate immigrants and they don't like minorities. And no matter who you pick, they're all going to be on the same page.
Yeah, no, I think the person, quite frankly, who's enjoying this the most is Barack Obama. So Barack Obama got away with his lawless executive amnesty and his sanctuary cities policies and all the rest of it. And on top of that, he believes that he has successfully goaded the Republican Party into a debate that is going to alienate, in his view, is going to alienate Hispanics from the Republican Party for a generation. I mean, think about the situation we have right now. We have a Democratic nominee who is under investigation by the FBI. We have the weakest economic recovery in one of of the weakest recoveries in American history. The world is on fire. ISIS is on the rise. Republicans are primed to take back the presidency in 2016. And what are we debating? Repealing the 14th Amendment, which is one of the great achievements of the Republican Party. It was the amendment by which we undid the Dred Scott decision. And that's what we're talking about. I think Barack Obama is sitting back in the White House and enjoying this enormously.
Certainly ignited a debate over the 14th Amendment, what it really does or doesn't mean. We'll talk about that more later on the show. Mark, great to see you. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks, Shannon.
Donald Trump and Jeb Bush both getting into testy exchanges with the media and both refusing to back down.
I'll use the word anchor baby. Excuse me. I'll use the word anchor baby.
Is that not bombastic language, anchor baby? Is that not bombastic language?
No, it isn't. Give me another word.
Should they be using the term anchor babies? Fellow 2016 presidential candidate Governor Mike Huckabee is here to weigh in live next. Plus, protests erupt in St. Louis after police shoot and kill a man they say was pointing a gun at them. But in nearby Ferguson, just one night earlier, a 9-year-old girl was shot and killed while sitting on her mother's bed doing her homework. Where were the protests for her? Sheriff David Clark has a powerful message. And a Democratic lawmaker tells an emotional story about being pulled over and feeling abused by a deputy. So the sheriff decides to pull the dash cam video. Brian Kilmeade has the story on what that happened to reveal.
He talked to me like I was a child. He was so rude and nasty.